Hello and welcome to How to Learn a Language. Yeah, the name kind of says it all. I'm Lindsay from Lindsay Does Languages, and I'm here to help you learn languages better, any language, any level. On this podcast, you'll get jargon-free linguistics insights to level up your fluency, practical mindset tips to tackle those inevitable learning wobbles, personal language diaries where I share my own progress and honest experiences, and an exclusive peek behind the scenes of language life. My coaching program that helps people speak fearlessly and intuitively by taking control of your learning without pressure or one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter methods. If you're ready to break free from perfectionism and finally start speaking the language you want, you're in the right place. Want to get started right away? Head to lindsaydoeslanguages.com/free video for your on-demand video training. All right, let's dive in. Hello, welcome back to How to Learn a Language. Today, we're talking about why taking breaks can help you learn more effectively, because I want to remove some of the kind of mindset gunk around pausing equals stopping equals failing. So that's what we're going to get into, because I think this is really important. It stops us when we have these feelings about what it means if we pause. Then it stops us pausing, and then that means that we just get stuck in a rut and we get overwhelmed and we burn out. Whichever way it could go, it's not good. So pausing can be a really good thing. Why? That's what we're going to talk about. First up, it gives your brain time to simmer. When you are learning new stuff completely non-stop, your brain just has no real time to process all that info and to filter through what is worth keeping or not, right? So taking a break gives your brain a chance to just simmer over ideas, new vocab, and start to decide what's worth remembering right now or what's not worth remembering. And it needs the chance to do that without you always actively trying to tell it what to remember and what not to remember. So just a break is that natural chance for your brain to be doing that, kind of working away in the background, right? Now, the default assumption here can often be that we'll forget everything if we stop. If we take a pause, then I'm going to forget all the stuff I've learned. I will have wasted my time, and we don't want that. Of course, we don't want that. But actually, that's not true. Now, I'm drawing here from one of my favorite books on how we learn. It's called, drumroll please, How We Learn by Benedict Carey. And one of the things that Carey mentions in the book is the idea of breaks helping you process info away from a task. So when you feel frustration or boredom, stop and take a break. Just as a general rule, if it is in the moment, in like one single study session and you're feeling frustrated or you're feeling bored, stop and take a break. If it's overall and there's this general sense around your language learning of frustration or boredom, stop and take a break for a while. Don't just think, I need to just push through this bit. I need to finish this sentence, or I need to keep going to the end of this month. No, just stop, just pause. And honestly, when you finish writing mid-sentence, essentially, you're more likely to remember where you left off than when you stop at a natural breaking point, because you think, okay, that is a well-rounded place to finish. And then when you come back to it, it's like, well, now what do I do now? Where do I begin? But if you stop sort of halfway through what it is that you're doing, when you come back in, it's like, where was I? And it weirdly is sometimes easier to pick that up. Now, when I first read this book, I sort of tested this theory accidentally, I think, with the New York Times Spelling Bee. So, on the New York Times Games app, right? The Spelling Bee. I would open the app, I'd do the spelling bee, see what I could spot automatically. No hints, no community clues, none of that. I would just do what I could do on my own first. Then, as soon as I got to the point where I'm thinking, I don't see any more words, I would shut it down straight away, right? Throughout the day, I would go back to that. And each time, I'd spot something new. Every single time that I would open up and see those letters around that little sort of honeycomb pattern in the middle, I'd see, this word, ding, 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 done. Okay, that's all I've got for now. Close it, come back to it later. And for me, that was the perfect example of how my brain was essentially like whirring away on the problem in the background, sort of offline away from the app, right? And that's what it's like. That's a real example of how this works and why we need these moments, why we need breaks to help us to process stuff. The other thing here is that rest and work are partners. They're not opposites. Especially the world that has been created. It's often the world that has been created that we now live in. Rest and work are seen as opposites, right? You are either working and that is good, or you are resting and that is bad. But actually, that's not the case. So I'm giving you a really strong reading list today. So the other book that I've read that is related to this topic specifically that I absolutely loved is Rest: Why You Get More Done When You Work Less by Alex Sujung Kim Pang. This is a must read if the idea of taking a break from your language learning stresses you out. One big takeaway is this idea that rest and work are partners, right? You need to rest to do better work. And this might seem obvious, but we just do not follow it all the time. We always need this as a reminder. If we get stuck in this thinking that rest is lazy, it's wasted time, it's unproductive, then we avoid rest and we overwork because we think, I don't want to be lazy. I don't want to be wasting my time or unproductive doing rest. Ugh, right? I have to do more work. And that's not good. As we've already seen, our brain needs time to simmer over ideas. So recognizing that good language study needs good rest is crucial to positively change our relationship to rest and taking breaks. Now, in the book, rest is broken down into different types, right? So there's this idea of active rest, like long walks, hobbies or exercise that can, rejuvenate the mind, stimulate ideas. I often find that if I'm working on something, especially if it's like idea generation, like if I'm thinking of like, okay, what do I want to say next on the podcast or in a YouTube video? And I'm sort of sat and I'm getting all these ideas down. And then I'm like, what else? I need to get up and like go for a walk to come back. And that's when I'm going to have the next batch of ideas, right? When I'm away from my computer, not when I'm just sat trying to force it out. So active rest is really important. The other thing is micro breaks and naps. Now, this might again be seen as lazy, but it's really, really not. It can help to reset your cognitive energy. Deliberate leisure is the other type that is broken down in the book. So hobbies, exploration, creative play, just giving your brain something to engage with that isn't work tasks. And this is where I think it's really important that we're thinking about rest, not just as I'm resting, I am sat down, quote unquote, doing nothing, watching TV, right? Like that is one type of rest that can be useful, but deliberate leisure, right? Like we're giving our brain a different task. We're not just thinking it's work or it's sat lying down doing nothing. Like there's other stuff in between. So think about what you can do in between language study sessions, in between work and everything else going on in your life, and see if you can fit things into these three categories. So maybe you realize, well, actually, yeah, between finishing work and doing my language study in the evenings, I do go to the gym or I do walk home or I do have this time where I'm sat helping my kids do their homework, whatever it might be. Like there's these other things that can count as rest if we think of them in a different way. So I find as well, personally, if I don't have my space in the morning, especially if I don't get outside, if I just sort of dive into work, which to be honest, when I'm traveling, some days that's how it has to be. I have to do work sort of straight away to get it done. And then there's a train to catch or whatever it might be later. But I find that if that happens, I lose focus a lot quicker than if I've been out for a morning run or I've been for a walk in the morning or even just some YouTube exercise or yoga inside if it's raining. It just helps me to get more done. Just having that sort of routine in some sort of putty-like way is really, really useful. So I can really understand where this is coming from, and rest and work, definitely partners. Final thing I want to mention here is that breaks create, and this is where you might be thinking, what? But listen, hear me out. Breaks create desirable difficulty. Oh, desirable difficulty? What is this? I don't want language learning to be difficult. I want it to be easy. Okay, I get it. Right, let me explain. Robert and Elizabeth Bjork have done some really interesting research called Making Things Hard on Yourself, but in a good way, creating desirable difficulties to enhance learning. Now, one of the things they suggest that can help to create desirable difficulty is breaks, spaced study, right? That's what we're talking about today. But what is desirable difficulty? I'm going to read a piece of the sort of abstract for you to explain this. So, before proceeding further, we need to emphasize the importance of the word desirable. Many difficulties are undesirable during instruction and forever after. Desirable difficulties versus the array of undesirable difficulties are desirable because they trigger encoding and retrieval processes that support learning, comprehension, and remembering. If, however, the learner does not have the background knowledge or skills to respond to them successfully, they become undesirable difficulties. Ooh, interesting, right? So the idea of desirable difficulty is that it's something that just challenges us a little bit. It's like, I often think about Goldilocks of, when we're thinking about challenge in language learning, it's like, oh, this porridge is too cold, this porridge is too hot, this porridge is just right. If we think about challenge in language learning, it's like, oh, this is too easy, this is too hard, the challenge of this is just right? That's desirable difficulty. Now, when we take a break, the thing that we don't think we want to happen happens. We naturally forget a little bit, right? But this is good. This is what creates the desirable difficulty. This becomes a good test for us on what we've remembered versus what we've forgotten. You're having to actively try to remember what you've forgotten rather than just do it power fashion. And often that means do it passively. So the chance to remember, that's the desirable bit. So how do we do this? How do we make this happen? Easy. We take a break. We don't overstudy, and you just let yourself take time in between to see what you can remember with curiosity, not critique. Personally, I love how reassuring this is, because oftentimes breaks can happen in language learning against our will, right? We don't necessarily want to take a break, but we have to because life. So it's really good to know that it's not the be all and end all to always remember things perfectly, to have a flawless routine. It doesn't mean that if you take a break, whether it is wanting to do so or sort of being forced to do so, that is the end. It is not the end. It can help you learn more effectively. If you do want to learn more effectively, I have a little something for you, because here is what actually makes language learning quick and easy. It's learning how to learn languages. Yes, really, it is not as hard as it sounds, and it works for any language. This is your next step. And you can get it right now at lindsaydoeslanguages.com/free video. At that link, you'll be able to sign up for a free class that I've made for you that is all about the real starting foundations of how to learn languages. You'll be introduced to 5 of my core principles of language learning and get a taste for what it can be like when we talk about this stuff. It doesn't have to just be, go, 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 hustle, hustle. There's so much more effective ways that we can learn how to learn and actually do so in a kinder yet still effective way. So lindsaydoeslanguages.com/free video if you're interested in that. And if this episode has sparked something for you, I would love to hear about it. You can email me, lindsay@doeslanguages.com, or share this episode with a friend who's working through something similar, and I'll be back soon. All right. Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to How to Learn a Language. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you're ready to take your language learning to the next level and speak with confidence without the pressure or perfectionism, then check out Language Life. You can find out all the details and join at lindsaydoeslanguages.com/LL. And if you want the first free step today, head to lindsaydoeslanguages.com/free video to get started with a fresh way to learn languages. Until next time, stay fearless, stay curious, so you can learn languages your way.